A few weeks ago, I did a video on mouse shortcuts, and I got tons of comments on that video saying that I needed to do a video on keyboard shortcuts too. So here we are. Today, I'm going to show you why you're using your keyboard wrong. Stay tuned. You know, we use our keyboards for a lot. In fact, I even had someone respond in the last video claiming that I was wrong about the mouse being our primary input device for Windows. He claimed that the primary input device was obviously the keyboard. Unfortunately, I respectfully disagree, because you can use a computer without a keyboard, but using a computer without a mouse is pretty difficult. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today, because the best way to learn keyboard shortcuts in Windows is by setting your mouse aside and trying to use Windows entirely with the keyboard. But first, I gotta pay some bills, so check out today's sponsor. Are you still running Windows 11 unactivated because the license just costs too much? Then you should check out today's sponsor, VIP-SCDKey, where you can get a valid Windows 11 license for around $20. Stop dealing with that stupid watermark and actually be able to change your desktop background with a valid license for Windows 11. Just go to the link in the description below and pick up a valid Windows 11 license key. During checkout, use the code CyberCPU for a 25% discount. Once you have your key, go to your activation settings in Windows 11 and click the link that says Change Product Key. Enter the product key you just purchased and hit Activate. Now you don't have to deal with that stupid watermark. And check out the description for deals on not just Windows, but Office too. Now, on with the video. Now, why would you want to set your mouse aside and operate Windows with only a keyboard in the first place? Well, technically you wouldn't. It would make using a computer pretty annoying. However, there are situations where you just simply don't have a choice. I can't even count the number of customers that I've had whose mouse just simply stopped working. Now, obviously, this was not a bad mouse, or even dead batteries for that matter. I'm talking about an actual driver conflict that causes the mouse to just stop working. Now, in order to fix something like that, you have to be able to navigate Windows with a keyboard, because in situations like this, adding a different mouse to try to fix the problem just doesn't work. Now, there's many different reasons why your mouse may stop working, and that's not really what this video is about. This video is about showing you how to navigate Windows with a keyboard in the first step in trying to fix a problem like that. Now, in doing so, hopefully you guys will pick up a number of keyboard shortcuts that you didn't realize were available to you. So, let's jump on the system and we'll get started. Okay, so here we are in Windows 11. I'm gonna go ahead and launch a couple programs to start out here, because obviously in some cases, if your mouse stops working, then you may have programs open. And that leads us to the first keyboard shortcut that we're going to be using, and that's going to be Windows D. And by doing that, it shows your desktop. It essentially minimizes everything so it shows your desktop. Now, while you're doing this, you can actually move the arrow keys around in order to highlight some of the icons that you have in your desktop. And you would do that just by essentially moving your arrows in the direction that the icons are at that you want to open up. So in the event that we wanted to open up this PC, we would just highlight the This PC icon and hit enter, and that would open this PC. Now, alternatively, if you don't want an icon that's on the desktop, but instead you want something that's on the taskbar, you would hit Win T for taskbar. And as you can see, we're now highlighting different things that are on our taskbar. Now for this one, we're gonna go ahead and launch Terminal from there. So as you can see, we've got a terminal window open without using a mouse at all. And this could be fairly effective. However, if we don't need this and we need to close the program, we can use Alt F4 to close the program. We can do the same right here with File Explorer, or you can even shut down Windows completely. However, that's definitely not what we want to do. So instead, I use the Tab key in order to move to the cancel button in order to cancel it. But if I do want to highlight the Explorer that's open right here, I would hit Alt Tab in order to highlight Explorer and then hit Alt F4 in order to close it. Now, let's say we want to go ahead and launch Explorer again down in our taskbar down there. We already have an Explorer launched right now, but it's minimized. So we want to go ahead and launch it. But instead of highlighting the terminal like we did before, all we're going to do is, as you can see, our Explorer is the third icon in the taskbar. So if we hit the Win number 3, it's going to go ahead and open Explorer. And again, we can hit Alt F4 to close it just like that. Now, let's say you want to launch a program that isn't on the taskbar or on the desktop. So we're going to go ahead and hit the Windows button to open up our Start menu. And then for this, I'm just going to go ahead and enter File Explorer. I know it's in the taskbar, but I want to launch it from the Start menu. And just like that, you can open up a program straight from the Start menu just by hitting the Windows key and starting to type the name of the program you want to launch. So let's say we want to do Word. We can do that, and we can launch Word just like that. And again, to close it, Alt F4. Now, if we want to go ahead and cycle through the programs that are currently running, we can use Alt Tab just like this, and we can highlight the different programs that we currently have open. Now, Chrome is minimized, so if we open that, it'll go ahead and open Chrome. And then alternatively, you can actually hit the Shift key if you want to go backwards through your Alt Tab screen. However, since we only have 2 programs open, that makes it kind of hard. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go Win T to highlight this. I'm going to open up a couple more programs real quick. So we're going to go, let's open up, there we go. So we got all these open. So if we hit Alt Tab, we can scroll forward through it just by hitting Alt Tab. However, if you hold the Shift key down in Alt Tab, you'll scroll backwards through the apps. Now for this one, we're going to go ahead and hit Alt F4 to close Chrome, and we can close some of these other programs we have open here too. So let's go ahead and close Command Prompt, and we'll close our Notepad also. And now right here, we're currently in our File Explorer. So let's say you need to get somewhere in File Explorer. As you can see, we're currently highlighted our View and Filter. However, if you hit the Tab key, you'll move through the different sections of the File Explorer, so you can scroll through stuff to open stuff manually. Now, let's say I want to go to our Pictures folder. So let's go ahead and open Pictures. And right here, as you can see now, we are in our Pictures folder. I've got a ton of pictures in here. Now, if we wanted to copy a file, we can go ahead and hit Control-C to copy. Works just like copying texts. And then let's go ahead and go into our Screenshots folder here and hit Control-V in order to paste that same file. Now, if we hit backspace, we can go back. And as you can see, we now have 2 copies of that file right there. However, let's go back in here. Let's highlight this and delete it simply using the delete key. Hit back again. Now, let's say I want to cut this file. I want to move this file into Screenshots. I don't want to simply copy it. So for that, you're going to hit Control-X to cut it. And then you're going to go into Screenshots and hit Control-V to paste it. We can go ahead and hit backspace again to go back. And as you can see, the original picture is no longer in the original directory. Now, let's say you decide you actually didn't want to do that. You messed up, but you don't want to go ahead and copy it and paste it and do all that again. What you can do is simply hit Control-Z to actually undo what you just did. And now if we scroll down, it'll probably be down at the bottom. As you can see, our file is down at the bottom here. Now, if you want it in the same order it was in before, you can actually hit F5 to refresh the folder, and you can see our original picture in the same spot it was in before. Now, if you decide, you know what, it actually is what you wanted to do, you did want to move it, but you don't want to go through the process of actually doing all that again, we can hit Control-Y and it'll redo what we had just done. Now, our picture disappeared, but as you can see, our thumbnail didn't show up on Screenshots, but if you hit F5 again, you'll see that it's right where it needs to be. Now, if we go ahead and back up again and we hit Control-A, that'll go ahead and select everything that's in the folder. And we can hit Control-D to go ahead and delete everything that's in the folder. However, that seems kind of stupid because we have a delete key too. So if we were to hit Control-Z to undo that, we'll get all of our files back like we have them now. And we can just hit Control-A to highlight everything and just push delete to delete them again. And as you can see, my folder is now empty. So we're going to go ahead and hit Control-Z again to undo and hit F5 to refresh, and it'll order everything in the way it was before. Now, as we're trying to manipulate these files, there's one more thing that you can do too, because oftentimes when you're copying, pasting, and moving files around, it's nice to use the right-click menu. Well, you don't have a right-click if you don't have a mouse. However, if you hit Shift F10, you do get the right-click menu. And as you can see, not only do you get the right-click menu, but you also get all of these little letters that are next to each thing that you want to do. So if you wanted to copy this file, you can go ahead and just push C right there for copy, and it would copy it. However, if you hit Shift F10 again, you can also use the mouse to navigate all the different selections within the right-click menu. Now, if we go ahead and hit escape to escape away from that, let's say we only want to select a certain number of files. In order to do that, what you can do is hold the Shift key down while moving the arrow key, and you can highlight a number of icons instead of all of them. So if you want to copy a line of files, you can do it that way. Now, let's say for the sake of argument, you want to highlight all of these files, but you only want every other one. So what you can do is with these highlighted now, we're going to go ahead and highlight these again. Now take your hand off the Shift key and hold the Control key while these are highlighted. And as you move around, as you can see, we can still move around without selecting everything on the list. And what we do is just go up to the files we don't want and simply hit the space bar over those files, and as you can see, now we have every other one selected. However, if you do move your mouse while you're doing that, you will unselect them just like I just did. So we're gonna go ahead and redo that again. And as you can see now, we go ahead and we only have every other file selected. Now let's go ahead and hit Shift F10 to get our right-click menu. We're gonna go ahead and hit Cut to cut all those files. And we'll go into our screenshot folder and hit Control V to paste them. And as you can see, we pasted every other file in there, and it's no longer in the original folder. Now, like I showed you before, we do have the Alt-Tab screen like we had before. And for this next tip, I'm gonna have to open up a few more windows. So let's go ahead and hit Win-T to highlight our tab here. We're gonna go ahead and launch Chrome. We'll go ahead down here again, we'll launch Terminal, and we'll go down here again, and we'll go ahead and launch Notepad. Now we have a bunch of programs open again. And now again, we have Alt-Tab. I already showed you how to use Alt-Tab before. However, there's an alternative to Alt-Tab that is pretty good. If you hit Win-Tab instead, you essentially get your task view screen. And this one, you don't have to hold Alt-Tab down. You can just scroll through the different applications by using your arrow keys. So we'll go ahead and click on Command Prompt here. And for this one, we're gonna go ahead and hit Alt, Space, and S. And what this does is allows us to change the size of the screen that we're currently using. So if we use our left arrow, we can extend it over to the side and then use our right arrow to bring it back, or we can use our down arrow in order to stretch it down and our up arrow to shrink it again. And then go ahead and hit Enter once you get the size that you want. Now, if you hit Alt-S again, we're gonna go ahead and try this one more time. If you hit left first, then you'll adjust the window from the left-hand side, and if you hit up first, you'll adjust the window from the top first. Now just keep in mind that when you're adjusting the size of these windows, if you hit up or down first, it's always going to retain it on that portion of the application. And if you hit right or left first, it's going to depend on which side of the application you're going to be stretching. So if you play around with it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Now let's say, for instance, that it's not the size of the window that's the problem. Let's say that the window is off the screen and we can't get to it and we don't have a mouse to drag it back onto the screen. Again, believe it or not, this happens quite a bit. In fact, it happened to me just the other day. And for that, you hit Alt-Space-M in order to get to the Move dialog box. And then from there, you can move the window around. And like I said, the other day, I had a screen that was completely off and I didn't have a way to move it back onto the screen. So I did it by simply using Alt-Space-M in order to move it back onto the screen so that I could do what I needed to do. So now that I've shown you how to move around and navigate through windows without a mouse, and even how to manipulate files and folders, it's time to get kind of a little bit more advanced. Because ultimately, if you're stuck using a keyboard because your mouse doesn't work, you may have to get to areas within Windows to troubleshoot and fix the problem. So let's jump back on the system and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so now that we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and Alt-Tab through some of these and Alt-F4 in order to close them, because obviously we don't need a bunch of different programs open here. We can go ahead and close those real quick. Now, the first and one of the most important shortcut keys when you're troubleshooting is to be able to get the task manager open. And for that, there's a couple different ways to do it, but the way I like to do it is Control-Shift-Escape. So if you hit Control-Shift and the Escape key, that'll open up your task manager. Let's say you're looking for a specific program on the list. And for this, I honestly shouldn't have closed Google Chrome. We're gonna go ahead and open it again real quick. We'll go ahead and hit Win-D and then Control-Shift-Escape again in order to get our task manager back. So let's say we need to kill Google Chrome. So the best way to do that is simply type G the first letter in Google Chrome and it will highlight it for us on this list. Now, if we want to kill it, we can go ahead and hit Shift F10 because we need the right-click menu. We can scroll down and hit End Task, and we can end task like that. Now, anything else on the list, you can use your arrow key just to scroll down the list if you want. However, if you want to find a specific program, like say I want to highlight fan control, I can just start typing the name and it will highlight it, and then Shift F10 to get the right-click menu if you want to be able to manipulate anything within Task Manager, and then Escape if you want to close the right-click menu. And to close it, the same as before, you just hit Alt F4 and it'll close the Task Manager. Now to open your Start menu, everybody knows you just hit the window key and it opens the Start menu. But what about the secondary Start menu? That could be really useful in troubleshooting problems. And for that, you just hit Windows X and it'll open up your secondary Start menu. And then from there, you can get into a bunch of tools that you can use in order to troubleshoot problems. Now, if you have driver problems with your mouse, you're probably going to want to go to Device Manager. You can either hit M to launch it, because you can see the M is underlined on Device Manager, or you can just scroll down to it and hit Enter. And that'll open up your Device Manager. And to close your Start menu, just hit the Win key and it'll close your Start menu. Now, in many cases, if your mouse isn't working, you can actually delete your mouse drivers in order to reinstall them. And to do that, you can scroll down, and if you can't scroll down right away, just go ahead and hit the Tab key to highlight inside of the Device Manager itself. You want to go down to right here where it says Mouse, Mice, and Other Pointing Devices, hit the right key to expand it, scroll down to your HID compliant mouse or whatever mouse you have there, and simply push the Delete key. It'll ask you if you want to uninstall it. If I hit Uninstall, as you can see, I no longer have a mouse, and I really don't. I can't move my mouse now. Now, to reinstall the mouse, all you're going to do is you're going to hit Alt in order to highlight the menus from the top. You're going to scroll over for Scan for hardware changes. And then once you do that, it should detect the mouse. And look at that. We have a mouse again. And once you're done with the Device Manager, all you have to do is hit Alt F4 to close it, and that's it. However, let's say that didn't fix your problem. There are certain instances where you need to go into the registry in order to kind of change some of the settings within your mouse drivers themselves. Believe it or not, the registry is a place that you need to go to in certain cases where the mouse fails. But if you can't use the mouse, how do you get the regedit open? And for that, it's pretty easy. If you hit Win R, it'll open up your R menu, and all you have to do is type regedit and hit Enter in order to launch the registry editor. Go ahead and use Alt-Tab to highlight the user account control, move over to Yes, hit the space bar to say yes, and it should open up the registry editor. And look at that. It opened off my screen. Now, how am I going to use it sitting all the way in the corner like that? Well, I showed you before. All you have to do is hit Alt-M in order to use the arrow keys to move the program over into the window so you can actually use it properly. And then once you get it to where you want it, you just hit the Enter key. And then from here, you can use the Tab key in order to kind of manipulate your way through wherever you want to go from within the registry editor to do what you need to do to fix your driver problem. Now, let's say you need to get down to the File Explorer itself and find the physical location of the drivers you're looking for. So we're going to hit Alt F4 to close registry editor. We're going to use some of the tips that we used before. In this case, I'm going to use Win3 in order to launch File Explorer because, like I said, it's the third program in our taskbar right there, and hitting Win and the number keys across the top will give you the number that corresponds with the program that you want to launch. Now, in this case, I want to go to the Windows System 32 directory. So for that, I'm going to tab down until I get to the sidebar right here. And then from there, I'm going to scroll all the way down to this PC. I'm going to hit Tab again in order to highlight the main window itself. I'm going to go ahead and hit Enter on C. I'm going to scroll down until I get to Windows. And now I could use my arrow key just to keep scrolling down until I hit System 32, or I can just start typing it. And as you can see, I typed SYS and I got System. And all I got to do is click once to get to System 32, and there's the folder that I wanted. So at this point, you should know how to navigate through Windows with a keyboard to be able to solve a majority of problems on your computer. At least problems that could be stopping your mouse from working, because there's no other reason why you'd be doing this with your keyboard. However, that's not the end of the shortcuts that are available in Windows. So let's jump back in the system and I'll show you some of the shortcuts that really didn't fit into the other sections of this video. More of the extra shortcuts. Now for that, let's get started. Okay, so now we're back on the system. I can go ahead and hit Alt F4 to close our file explorer. And the first tip that I want to show you, this one, unfortunately, I gotta kind of fake on this computer because it doesn't work. This only works if you have an Intel integrated graphics. And for that, if you hit Win Alt and then one of your arrow keys, as you can see here, the screen is upside down. You can hit the down arrow key in order to straighten it back out. Now, this right here is a way so you can change your screen orientation from within Windows. However, like I said, I had to fake it through video editing on this one because I have an RTX 3060 on this system and that doesn't support this specific shortcut key. However, if you have integrated graphics, specifically Intel integrated graphics, then this shortcut should work for you. Now moving on, if you hit the Windows key plus V, you're gonna go ahead and open up your clipboard history. And to turn it on, all you gotta do is go ahead and just hit enter, and that will turn on your clipboard history. And this is a really useful feature from within Windows. Let me show you why. So if we open up Notepad right here, I'm gonna write something, and then something else. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and copy something, and then we're gonna go ahead and copy something else. And now if you hit Win V, as you can see, you have both of those things in your clipboard history. Now this works out really well because Windows historically has only stored the last thing that you copied in your clipboard. By doing this, it will store essentially everything that you copy. But if you do enable clipboard history and you want to have a little bit more privacy, it might be a good idea to hit Windows V to open it and then hit Clear All in order to clear your clipboard history, just to make sure that nothing is stored in there. And then with the clipboard history open, as you can see, there's a bunch of different icons up here. If you click over here, you'll notice that you also have access to emojis. However, you can also hit the Windows key and period in order to open straight to the emoji panel. And as you can see, we have GIFs available in here too. Now, if we go ahead and hit Alt F4 to close this, and we highlight our notepad right here, we can also hit Windows plus the arrow keys in order to take advantage of the Windows Snap feature, in order to snap the windows to different parts of the screen simply by hitting the arrow keys to move around where you want the application to be snapped. Just like that. And many people already know about hitting Windows and print screen in order to simply take a screenshot of the computer. Now, as I just showed, if we go over into our pictures folder, into our screenshots, you'll see that here's a screenshot that I just took. However, let's say you don't want this entire screenshot. Say you just want the text that's typed into Notepad right here. So in order to do that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit Windows Shift S. So Windows Shift and S will open up the snapping tool. And from there, you can see you have this little crosshair right here that you can go ahead and highlight whatever it is you wanna copy. And as soon as you let go, it will take a screenshot, as you can see, of just the thing we wanted a screenshot of. Now, the next tip, and then in certain circumstances, you may be trying to hook your computer up to a projector. And to get to the projector control panel, all you have to do is hit Windows P and it'll open up the projector control panel. However, I don't have a projector connected to my computer, so it really wouldn't make much sense to use it here. And then finally, the last one, and I saved this for the last one because I'm not sure exactly what it'll do to my screen capture, but if we hit Windows L, it will go ahead and lock the computer. So as you can see, it is possible to use a Windows PC without a mouse. It's just not very practical. However, I have met people before that can navigate Windows with a keyboard just as quickly as a regular person can navigate with a mouse. The problem is it's nowhere near as intuitive as pointing and clicking. But if you spend enough time and build enough muscle memory with shortcuts, you can definitely navigate through Windows with just a keyboard. In fact, if you're good enough at navigating Windows with a keyboard, if you have a friend that happens to prank you by stealing your mouse, it'll really mess up the prank. But with that said, if you have a friend that's really good with keyboard shortcuts, check out this video where I'm sure you'll find a prank or two that'll work on him. Many of those pranks would be even funnier if you stole his mouse too. But as always, you guys have a great day.